I'm Joe Normal, and you're watching Guitar Tales with Dave Cohen and Scott Guitarmist Engel. Have a rockin' day.
Here we come, walking down the street, get the funniest looks from everyone we meet. Hey, with the monkey, the people say monkey around. We're too busy singing to put anybody down. Just proud to be friendly, come and watch, sing and play. We're the young generation, we got something to say. Hey, with the monkey, you never know where we'll be found. So you better get ready, maybe come to your town.
1, 2, 3 key changes that Scott Guitarmist Engel just gave us in that great little Monkeys rendition. We have something super cool, and we are live. For the first time in the history of Guitar Tales, we are live. Here's my Guinness that Scott brought for me last week that I'm drinking to commemorate this. Scott is in the green room. This is one of our intermezzo shows. We want to thank Charles Larita of Mischief Studios for being an amazing sponsor of the show. He's one of the first guests we ever had from season 1. Go there for lessons, equipment, repairs, and friendship. Do all that at Mischief Studios. Tonight's show, I'm going to let Scott describe for us. It's a fun show. We've already had a little bit of social media response to it. Scott, scoot on into the studio right now, if you could.
Hi, everybody.
So this is your brainchild. I take no credit for it for tonight's show.
My brainchild?
It is.
Well, I have a very small brain, so, whatever. Anyway. Hey, welcome, everybody. It's good to be here live, and mistakes and all. I don't have to edit out dog barks. If it's gonna happen, you're gonna hear them. And now I just cursed it by saying that.
You did. Bo will bark. or my post-COVID coughing.
Oh my God, you poor guy.
Yeah.
So tonight's episode is about fake bands on television and film, and we got about 11, maybe 10 bands, 11 bands we're going to talk about. We're going to try to play some clips. Hopefully those won't get sniffed out and silenced. And I started the show with a little Monkeys theme because I played it. It did not get sniffed out. So maybe we'll get 5 minutes into the show.
Yeah.
And we'll get sniffed out.
The internet police will shut us down.
We got some live chat going. And when people log in, they want to say something, we'll flip it on the screen. We have some comments, things they want to say. We also have our Guitar Tales merch QR code up there on the left. If you hit that with your phone, we will know that you scan that and that you went to our website to maybe buy a cool hat or a shirt or buy a 99-cent song, either the Guitar Tales theme or my theme for Noise Network, which is called Man Overboard.
You won a contest with that, if I remember correctly.
I did, yeah. I won like best guitar solo or something. I sent it in the guitar player for the practicing musician.
Yeah, we won absolutely nothing for our song.
And I won a shirt and a bunch of strings.
All right, it works.
Even like third place or something, or second place. Who the hell?
Yeah. You know, I was thinking about, and again, if we crash and burn, I'll call it my idea. But if we're successful, I'll call it yours. I'll do the opposite of what people normally do. But I think the reason why this is resonating so much with people, because we got a fair amount of response on social media, is that it's part of the fabric of our youth. I mean, obviously there's movies that still come out with fake bands and all that.
Right.
But in terms of what we've chosen to talk about tonight, and I think the reason why people are emphatic, my law partner and really dear friend Elliot, he called me today, said, Dave, we have something very serious to talk about. He ended up talking about fake bands with me in the middle of a workday. But when we think about growing up and all the things that influenced us, those things that I think make most people in our generation, but really any generation, favor what we grew up with over past or present generations.
Mhm.
That's a big piece of it, And that, when we vote, that's going to influence. I'm not telling you yet how I'm voting for the top, but that will influence.
Yeah,
my vote.
we're gonna present these in no specific order, but at the end of the show or towards the end of the show, we really probably try to keep it under an hour tonight, maybe less. I don't know how long it's going to take to get through 11 clips and comments.
Right.
We have some fun facts about each one of these fake bands that
Yep.
everybody knows and loves. Some you might love more than others. Maybe we didn't mention it yet, and you want to mention in the comments below what your favorite is. Maybe it's a more modern day favorite. Maybe it's an older favorite that we're not familiar with.
Right.
I mean, look, TV's been around since what, the 1950s. Film has been around even longer than that. So there's sure to be tons of fake bands throughout the years. So let's kick it off with one of my personal favorites.
I'm ready. I'm ready.
The favorite of mine, but it's definitely
it's
one of my
favorite.
So let's. Do you know where the fun is, David?
I want to find out where the fun is, Scott.
Right,
that's what I would like.
I'll tell you where it is.
Gonna go way out. That's where the fun is, way out.
Have no bodies under those washers.
No.
That's where the fun is.
They're having fun. I'm digging
That's
that.
the Way Outs. That's the Way Outs were part of the Flintstones. And I put a little blurb here. You'll see them. I'll pull them up if I can try to do 17 things at once here.
Yeah.
So it was an animated English band. So you'll see one of the common denominators we're going to talk about is a lot of these fake bands from the 60s all were inspired by the Beatles in some way.
Ripping off might be another way to put it.
The Way Outs were no different. I mean, well, they were trying to cash in on Beatlemania, right?
Yeah.
So this aired November 26, 1965 on an episode of the Flintstones. So right in the heart of Beatlemania, right? 1963 or 66.
And you and I, we're watching reruns of that. We're too young. We're both born in 64. You might have been 63. You're 64, right?
Yeah, 63.
Right. So we're babies at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, there you go. I mean, they definitely were trying to cash in on that, I would think. I forgot I have to bring up another video.
There you go. You got a reminder. I heard a little blip in my
amongst
ear.
yourselves.
All right, let's play the next one.
All right, here we go. We're going to jump right into it. Here we go. And I love the way this starts. And here we go. We're going to get sniffed out. Here we go.
All right.
A lot of talking over the top of this.
I know, so that'll block the sniffing.
Here
we go. I'll keep talking.
Here we come.
I like this.
Walk down the street.
WN.
Get the funniest looks from everyone we meet.
Just don't torque us out.
Hey, we're the monkeys. And people say we monkey around. But we're too busy
We're too busy
singing
overdubbing and
to
talking.
put anybody down.
Maybe we better stop it there and not push our luck.
Yeah. This you're going to share with us in a little bit some really amazing trivia. But they were just such a phenom, the Monkees. And I remember, I don't know, probably middle school, there was such resentment from the members of the band because when people in the public found out that at least initially they weren't true musicians, but then they wanted to tour and then they wanted to be able to sing their own songs. And one of them
That was kind of their downfall, that they wanted to sing their own stuff.
Yeah. But
of course, Mike Nesmith went on to be a bazillionaire from the Whiteout stuff.
Yeah.
And he was family invent that Whiteout.
Yep. His mom did, actually.
Yeah.
But it's got to be interesting. So here you are, you're a very young person, young men in this case, and they have this wild success. And right, so now whatever amount of money comes does in fact come, but now they still want to have meaning. They still want to have respect. And like you said, their desire to be respected in a world that's about music. They were actors. They weren't musicians.
Yeah.
But they were thrust into the position of being in this fake band and largely rejected on some level, despite absolutely insane success. Talk to us about 1967, which this is amazing to me.
Here's a great factoid. Factoid. That's the
Yeah.
word I was looking for. Crap.
Oh, there you go.
All right. Here's a little Monkeys factoid. They sold over 75 million records across the globe because they had international hits and many hits here in the U.S. They received multiple awards, including a Grammy for
Yeah.
the best new artist of '67. So they actually outsold the
This-
Beatles and the Stones combined
Combined. Yeah, that
in 1967.
it's absolutely crazy. And that's in the middle of Beatlemania. I mean, the Stones were big then. They got a little bigger, I think probably 2 or 3 years
They actually
later.
knocked the Beatles off the charts in '67. I wish I could remember
Wow.
a song that was very popular. It might have been Get Back or maybe an earlier hit. But whatever it was, the Beatles were the top #1 spot for a bunch of weeks. And here come the Beatles, the Prefab Four, and knocked the Beatles off the chart.
Well, I didn't share this with you before. I have a theory.
How do
about
you
it.
win a Grammy if you're not a real band either? I mean they're real songwriters and real musicians
behind it?
Yeah.
And I guess they're the ones who won it. Here's my theory. And this is what historically is so interesting to me. So 1967 is nearly 60 years ago at this point, a little less. But, you and I know MTV came out in 82. We started watching in earnest probably in 83,
Yeah.
something like that. So less than 20 years after that great statistic, right? What takes over music? The ability to every single day or every single week look at the star, look at the musician, and we had our videos. Well, if you look at the Monkees, I mean, the Beatles had Hard Day's Night, and they had some movies, but the Monkees were on, if you include syndication or just repeats and things like that, they were constantly visually in front of fans.
Yeah.
And I have to think, obviously the songs are good. They're not Beatles quality songs, but they're good. I was thinking about it today when you and I were chatting, is that the fact that they were consistently on television had to have added to it. What do you have in that mug? Is that your Jameson?
Corona.
Oh, all right.
So if I choke on my beer, it'll be a Corona cough.
All right, that's not bad. But that has to be a piece of it because the songs are good, the performance is good, but I can't imagine that it was that good. This is a better statistic. Look at that.
Yeah, Hendrix opened for the Monkees. A lot of people know this. Some people don't. Maybe you're learning that today here on our educational television show.
Yeah.
They went on their first tour in '67. That was a really, really hot year for the Monkees. But Hendrix only played 7 of the 29 scheduled events because half the time he was getting booed off the stage because the kids wanted to see the Monkees. They wanted that pop rock. And reminiscent of Back to the Future, where Marty goes, I guess you kids aren't ready for that yet.
Yeah, you're right.
I just imagine Hendrix going out there going ape shit.
Ape shit, we could
Let's
say.
curse. Who cares?
Here's our first bark of the night. Bo was losing his mind.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it's all good.
But
So
he got booed off the stage a bunch of times, and he's just like, I can't do this anymore. And he left the tour. He only did 7 out of 29 dates.
yeah, it's a shame because he would have been successful as a guitar player had he continued. Yeah.
Speaking of Beatles-esque ripoffs, here's our next clip. Don't sniff this one out. I'm going to try to cut it short, too.
All right, let's see how we do.
He's a loser. Ain't no mind what he says.
We'll keep talking over it. Oh, that's so
I
bad.
love the classic moves are great.
It's so bad.
So you can see each one of these guys is basically ripping off the look of a famous person.
Yeah. And
And
leather.
Mr. Howell is very square. He doesn't care.
I like those guitars though.
Yeah. Wow. He's got the furry vest. That was a very popular thing back in those days.
All right, hold on. Keep it still for a minute. Is that an ES?
Yeah,
Right.
I think so.
I think it's
The other
an
one
ES.
looks like a Dan Electro, maybe.
Yeah, that looks like a Dan Electro.
Yeah.
But that's an ES 335
Oh,
or
do you remember the
something,
name
right?
of this band? You,
No, I do not.
here we go. The Mosquitoes.
I do not remember them.
The
At all.
Mosquitoes. Another insect name, right? They like
Yeah.
the Beatles, so let's call them the Mosquitoes. So
Was that Aaron Spelling who did Gilligan's Island?
No, Sherwood Schwartz,
That's right. Sherwood
Brady
Schwartz.
Bunch guy.
That's right. That's
So
right.
the band members' names were Bingo, Bango, Bongo, and Irving, which is really
Oiving. Well, fun fact. When I was right before you and I formed The Cure together, I
Yeah.
was in the punk band Bloody Smegma, and we had
name.
D-Day Druxon, Donnie Vandal, Animal, and Dave. I was the nerd in the group. So
So interestingly, who did the actual music? Of course, they had to record these songs for the television show.
right.
Those actors didn't know how to play. Obviously, you got one
Right.
drum going that way, one drum going this way. The other
Yeah.
drum says, "What do you want from me?" So they were played by Les Brown Jr. in a folk group, the Wellingtons, who sang the original theme song in the first season. Just sit right back in those guys.
Oh, that's
So those
that-
guys did the musical portion for that.
they had range.
They did.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, they weren't as popular as the Monkees, but they're again trying to cash in on that
The whole Beatlemania.
Beatlemania thing.
Yeah.
So, sticking with our concept of copying the Beatles or whatever, there was a prefab 4 from England, and this is a little clip of one of their videos called "Cheese and Onions," the Ruddles.
There we go. This isn't bad.
No, it's not.
Delicious.
Quite brilliant, actually. So I had the Peter Mask X,
Yeah.
cartoon trying to copy Yellow Submarine.
That's exactly it.
So this actually was a special in BBC, and then the folks at SNL got a hold of it and put it on as like a little clip during SNL.
That's a bit of trivia I was not aware of.
Yeah, and so so if you see the Ruddles movie, it's like a fake documentary. They got a bunch of guys from Monty Python in there and a bunch of people from SNL at that time. Belushi and Aykroyd.
Right.
Hilda Radner's in it. And then they actually got cameos from George Harrison, who
really?
absolutely loved the Ruddles parody. John was more worried about they were going to get sued for copyright infringement.
Right. Yeah.
Although he did like it. And Paul was quoted as saying no comment like a bazillion times. And then finally he came around and said, okay, yeah, it's kind of funny.
Right.
Ringo liked it, except part of it was a little dark. It kind of reminded him of the dark times of the Beatles, like because it's a fake documentary. They talk about the Ruddles breaking up and Apple Corps, their Apple
Oh
Corps
my God.
radio thing.
That's
their
funny.
studio that went under. So Ringo liked it, except he thought some of the stuff at the end was kind of depressing because it mimicked a little too closely
Hit home.
what actually happened to the Beatles.
It cuts like a knife, as they say.
Yeah. Let me get rid of that. So here's some more factoids. So they were actually sued by ATV Music.
Right.
So John's worry had come to fruition because they were actually sued. At that time, ATV Music owned the Beatles catalog of songs, not Michael Jackson.
Right. Yeah.
And they did go to court, and they I think they settled out of court for like 50% of the royalties for the songs that sounded too close, and the songs that the Beatles songs that they originally wrote that didn't sound like an actual Beatles song. They let them keep the royalties to that.
That sounds pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
That's the lawyer in me talking too. It sounds like a decent settlement. The Beatles made a couple of bucks on it, so that's
exactly.
And they were hurting, so that's good. I feel better about the Beatles.
Exactly. All right. So here's our next clip. We're going through these much quicker than I thought. So way before Kiss, these guys got into costumes. And they are, of course, the Banana Splits.
And that is just such a catchy song. And we opened the show today talking about our childhood and sort of the fabric of growing up. I used to look forward as a kid to the show, but I think in my head, all I really remember is the intro because it's a very catchy song. It's fun, it's silly, it's light.
Yeah.
And what's so great is that somewhere a musician came up with that. It's just a catch. It's almost like a jingle more than a song,
So that was a Hanna-Barbera deal. However,
Yeah.
We got a factoid here, which I didn't know until I was researching some of these things. And I think I just had a great idea of playing the video without the sound. That's kind of
Yeah, that does work.
that's smart, and we won't get in trouble. So
We won't get in as much trouble.
yeah, the costumes
Yeah.
were created by Sid and Marty Krofft. So they went to Sid and Marty Krofft, who had major success with H&R Puff and stuff, and making all those kooky costumes. And
Right.
Hanna-Barbera went to him and said, "Hey, can you make us some costumes for this show we're putting on?" Which is kind of weird because I figured they'd be direct
Competitors.
competitors with them.
Yeah.
Those ATVs are great. I actually drove one of those in the 70s. You just drive it with 2 sticks.
Oh, really?
My friend's dad said, "I'm buying the Banana Splits cars." I saw it on television. And he went and found out who made them and bought one, and the kids used to drive around it.
Oh, that's fantastic.
6-wheeled vehicle.
Oh, that's very cool. But that's such a
good
fun.
friend.
I mean,
Joe Galetta.
literally hearing that song makes me happy because how often do you want to hear that song?
That is a happy song, but I don't
It
think
is.
it's as happy as this song.
Hello world, hear the song that we're singing. Come on, get happy.
That's just a great song. Wisely, you cut it off before we could get nailed.
Yeah.
But that's just a well-written song. It just is.
So
And
obviously, there's some backstory here. They were going. They hired the people for the show because they were actors, not because they could sing. It was only an afterthought that they found out David Cassidy could actually sing.
And Shirley Jones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Supposedly Shirley Jones might be in the recordings, but she's tucked away in the background. You can't even really
Right.
hear her. But the band, David, of course, is the only one doing the actual singing, and the music was largely played by the world famous Wrecking Crew. Covered those songs in the studio for him.
That's pretty cool. And let's not forget about Dave's brother Sean, or his nephew or cousin or something.
That was his brother.
I actually have.
Became a huge teen idol.
Yeah, I actually have that rock and roll song on my playlist. It's actually I want the Smoking Jackets to do that song. It's a very catchy song.
And who's hotter than Susan Day on the piano? Oh my God,
Nobody.
Such an early crush of mine. So here's another factoid. They were this idea of a musical family in a bus traveling around with their
Right.
mom in charge. By the way, I didn't know this, but Mrs. Partridge is actually a widow. I always wonder what happened to the husband.
I always
Obviously, they had
wondered
a
that
bunch
too.
of kids,
Yeah.
So that's the backstory there. Anyway, so it's loosely based on this musical family called the Cowsills, who were evidently very popular in the 60s and early 70s. And they were originally supposed to do the show, but they scrapped it because they were terrible actors, and even though they could sing,
Right.
it didn't fit the formula for the show, so they just kicked them to the curb.
Well, clearly the right decision was made. That was just a huge show. It's one of those shows when we were limited to a time slot, at that age.
I was definitely inspired to play music after watching them play in the garage and stuff.
Yeah.
And they had a couple of kids that were playing the drums. I guess the first kid wasn't getting along with the cast, especially Danny and Danny Bonaducci.
Right.
He's fighting with him all the time. So his parents took him out and they replaced him with another kid. It's irrelevant. I forget what their names are. But if you look at the early shows, it's one kid playing the drums.
Right.
He goes away and they got another kid. Back in those days, it didn't matter. Like you had the two Dicks on Bewitched.
Right, I know. No one knew the
Dick
difference.
York, Dick Sargent. You know, they would just
And-
fire people, put other people in there.
And I think there were two different female leads. It wasn't always Elizabeth Montgomery. I think there were two different women who played.
Well, I know there were two different Marilyns in the Munsters. Butch Patrick told us that.
Yeah,
So back in those days, they just
they
did
just did
whatever
it.
they had to do, and
Yeah,
they didn't
yeah.
really give a damn. All right, here's our next one. Here's one for the ladies.
Josie and the Pussycats, long tails and ears perhaps, guitars and sharps and flats, neat, sweet, a groovy song, you're invited, come along.
And I guess they were somehow hooked up with Scooby Doo. I just noticed in there.
Yeah. Now, the funny
Those
thing is,
meddling kids.
what kind of guitar was that? I couldn't really tell.
Probably some kind of Fender.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So the theme song was written by a couple of guys.
Really?
Joseph Barbera and William Hanna-Barbera, and Hoyt Curtin. I know Hoyt's a guy's name too, I think.
I think it is.
Guys. So, but Hanna and Barbera used pen names instead of actual names in the credits for writing the song.
They probably didn't want people to know. but then the funny thing is that's an iconic band, because I think that led a lot of real-time bands to form like girl power type bands.
Yeah.
And you've seen so many copycat. I'm not trying to use the word cat, but I guess I did. But there's been so many live bands that have replicated that in real life that they actually had a pretty profound influence.
Yeah, I would love to hear from some of the ladies to comment below. We'd love to hear from you, or in the live chat. Did that inspire you to play guitar or drums or bass or bang two tambourines together?
Yeah.
Which is a really weird way to play tambourine. I don't know why she's banging two tambourines together.
The sound worked though.
It did. Yeah. She's. Oh, here's some guys you might have heard of.
Come on, oh baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, oh baby, don't you want?
Of course, that's the Blues Brothers.
It is.
Starring Bo on
That's right.
on the Barks.
All right, so now you gave me a good segue. So mentioned earlier Elliot Colodi, my partner and friend. Here's what he wrote in on our website.
Okay.
The Partridges and the Monkees are obvious and would be hard to justify not including. But the best, and I would argue the most influential, would be the Blues Brothers. They had an all-star team of musicians and single-handedly brought the entire genre to the attention of a mass audience through both television and movies. It's hard to argue against Elliot. He voted just the best. And Steve Cropper, I mean, we all know that name because of the Blues Brothers. They were semi-real, semi-fake.
Yeah, I mean, but all those guys played in massive records and Motown records, and you know, I mean, and just the cameos in the movie alone was like incredible.
Oh, it's crazy.
And now it's like historically great that they're preserved. Their performances are preserved. I mean, they're pre-recorded, of course, but I mean, Aretha Franklin and
Cab Calloway.
Cab Calloway, of course.
Yeah. It's amazing. And
James Brown.
Right. And the funny thing is, you know, I remember when they were on Saturday Night Live, I had trouble accepting them because, you know, I guess I was a teenager when it came out. You know, I'm thinking, all right, Dan Aykroyd's a comedic actor. John Belushi's a comedic actor. Dan is, you know, fooling around on the harmonica.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, this is bullshit. They're not a real band. And I was I wasn't willing to accept them. And here we are 40 some odd years later. And I look back, my perception of them historically now, Monday Morning Quarterback, I guess, they're just a real band.
Yeah.
Belushi's voice is fantastic.
Yeah.
Dan's is too. Dan plays a mean harmonica, and they were both students of the blues. As you and I were chatting earlier today, they were from Second City, which means they're from Chicago. Mm-hmm. You know, and they grew up, no doubt, listening to Chicago blues
for real. Yeah, like they were real fans of the blues.
and there's a reverence in that movie. Yeah, you know and I think as we look back, supporting Elliot's position. There's an authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
to that band, and because of that reverence, I think.
And those scenes with that scene with Ray Charles, it's just fantastic when he.
Oh my god!
It's
Yeah.
great. We're like, this keyboard's a piece of crap. It's got no action. You're like, how many music stores you've been in? Like, this guitar. Oh yeah, let me give it to me, and I'll show you how to play that thing.
Right.
And you get two other fake bands for the price of one. You get Murph and the Magic Tones, and the
Right.
Good Old Boys, the cover
Right.
band that they.
That's
that they
right.
pretended to be the
We
place,
had-
the bunker
yeah.
there.
Yeah, we had
Bunker.
someone on our Facebook page. Someone made that comment. Yep.
Yeah.
Very
Really
cool.
great. Definitely high on my list.
Yeah.
Here's a little scene for you. Let's see if you know what this fake band is.
This is a top to what we use on stage, but it's very, very special because if you can see, the numbers all go to 11. Look, right across the board. 11, 11,
and most of
11,
the
and then
amps go up to 10.
Exactly.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it? It's not 10. You see, most blokes be playing
Blokes.
10. You're on 10
Yes.
here, all the way up, all the way up,
All the
all
way
the
up.
way up. You're on 10 on your guitar. Where can you go from there? Where?
I don't know.
Nowhere, exactly. What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff,
I wonder if
you know
this
what
is
we do?
completely
Put it
like
up to 11.
11, exactly.
improvised or
One
not.
louder.
Why don't you just make 10
It's so
louder
good.
and make 10 be the top?
I love his reaction
Make
here.
that a little louder.
These go to 11.
That is, it's comedically brilliant. Every song sucked, but they were fun at the same time.
Well,
And-
I think if they're mimicking anybody at this point in time, they're mimicking the big shows, right? They're making fun of a parody of the big shows like Kiss with the fire and the
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
big monsters, and like you got Eddie from Iron Maiden coming out,
I
So
know.
so that was very clever. And our little factoid here: they're all American playing British rockers.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I hope it didn't upset any British folks.
No, well,
I think it's brilliant.
It is. I actually, when I was in England last fall, I did a sort of a forced perspective picture to make Stonehenge, as they call it, not Stonehenge, but Stonehenge.
Mhm.
Remember that scene where all the pieces are really, really little, like they have this whole big thing. They bring them out on stage,
Right.
and then the pillars are like 18 inches tall.
Yeah.
I did a forced perspective picture to make them look that little. But it was, and they did play their own instruments in that, unlike a lot of the other fake bands. They're all
They
good
did, yeah.
musicians.
I think they did anyway.
I know they did,
It's my understanding that they actually did play them.
and I'll say that with confidence, like I'm right. I just think I'm right. But yeah, I believe because they did another musical afterwards. I forgot what it was called. But yeah, I'm pretty confident they played all their own instruments on
I
that.
think they did too. Yeah.
Yeah, Chris Guest is like a real musician. I know that much.
Yeah. So our factoid here for folks that are listening to the podcast, the band Spinal Tap first appeared in a video as part of a 1979 sketch comedy special called The TV Show, a project spearheaded by Rob Reiner, who was the director, and Michael
Right.
McKean, who we just saw in that last clip. Just brilliant, just hilarious.
Yeah,
Okay, I know this is one of your favorites.
it is. I know what's
Very,
coming
very,
up.
very catchy.
Yeah.
The old Fender.
Yeah.
This is
Rickenbacker?
also sort of a Beatle ripoff, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they're all dressed the same, and the drummer.
He's doing the jazz
Yeah,
style.
the drummer is the guy that sort of brought everything to the next level. You know,
Yep.
they often say that when Pete Best left the Beatles or was replaced by Ringo Starr, that they really started to take off.
Yep.
So that's the Oneaters. Wait,
Yep.
did I mispronounce that? Oh, the Wonders. The Wonders.
That's right.
Actually, in my research, I found a band called the Wonders.
Did you really?
It's one, just the way they spelled it there, with an asterisk in between the ders.
Oh, I like that. That's very
Wonders to kind
clever.
of break it up, which is kind of funny. So you may or may not know the movie was co-written by and directed by Mr. Tom Hanks.
Yeah, and he's brilliant in that movie. His ability to just be understated and authoritative at the same time.
Mhm.
He was sort of the sage person say I've seen a million bands come and go, and this is what you got to do. Again, and he always had that sage advice for everyone.
That's coming from an era where those things actually really happened. The rock and roll
Yeah.
shows. My dad played in a lot of rock and roll shows to get exposure, getting on the bus in the winter and going on to the next city, and you don't know how you were going to be received.
Right.
Hearing your song on the radio for the first time.
Yeah.
Paying off the DJs or the radio station to have your song played.
Payola, as they call it.
Yeah. So
yeah.
There's a fictional record label here on our little factoid called Playtone Records, which is the record label that the Wonders were on.
Yeah.
Which eventually became an actual record label.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
under Epic Records to release the song as a single.
Well, that's kind of like the Catalina Wine Festival.
It did quite well. So those are our 10. Now we do have an honorable mention here.
All right.
Because the fans of the show have spoken.
Right.
And I agree that it's probably the most realistic fake band besides maybe the Wonders and the Blues Brothers that we have on the list, and that's Stillwater. So they're reminiscent of country rock bands.
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
In the mid to late 70s.
That's filmed perfectly, and that just looks like concert footage. That's all.
That's from the movie Almost Famous. You haven't seen it, I highly recommend you see it, whether you're a musician or not.
Yeah.
Again, sort of a rags to riches, garage band to fame story. With lots of little moving stories and parts and stuff. And it's very, very good.
Yeah.
So again, for our podcast listeners, I'm going to read the factoid here on Stillwater. There was a real band named Stillwater that Cameron Crowe crossed paths with in the 1970s at the famed Capricorn Picnic. So the Capricorn Picnic was some kind of big,
like a festival,
celebrity-filled picnic that they had, and this band was playing there. And the name of the band was actual Stillwater, and I guess they came up with the concept from the movie from that actual Capricorn Picnic. If you guys know about the Capricorn Picnic, you have more information, drop us a comment. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we're sort of at the time where you and I have to vote right now.
Yes. So why don't you reveal your pick, your top pick?
Yeah. So I feel strongly about this just for me, which is the Wonders, that thing you do. And here's why. I actually debated Elliot today. Because the movie, in my view, is so perfectly crafted, with great acting, a great story, a love interest. And that song had the strength to carry an entire movie. So every time we heard music, we would hear a piece of that thing you do.
Yeah.
And even as you were playing our, probably 21-second clip that we had to keep short, the guitar work was nice. The harmonies were nice. The melody was nice. So I'm not looking at the song or the band in isolation. I'm looking at a song that's connected to a fabulous movie. And that's a movie, every single time I see it on cable or TV, I will watch it because I think it's just,
can't turn it off. Yeah.
No, it's just a well-crafted movie, and I'll appreciate all the little pieces of it. So I'm not looking at the band in isolation. I think objectively, there's other fake bands, which is funny, that are better than the Oneaters. Yeah. But in the realm of fake bands, they win it for me.
Very cool. Now I have to give honorable mention for my choice. My honorable mention is the Monkees, because the Monkees were the very first record I ever had when I was a kid. I cut it off the back of a box of cereal, an Alphabets box, and it was a record that you can actually play.
Oh, I remember those. Yeah,
actually on the
cereal
cardboard
box
or whatever. You cut it out, and I played that song to death, The Last Train to Clarksville. But having said that, that's not my number one pick. My number one pick is the Blues Brothers, because the whole movie in itself is just exactly like some bands, things the bands have to go through, right? With the
Right.
playing behind chicken wire. Again, my father said that happened to him. Um, Playing in a lounge to make money when you can't make it with a band you really want to play with.
Right.
Working the Magic Tones and their stage presence with their suits and their very instrument cabinets and so forth. But the Blues Brothers, it's authentically sang by the guys that were also acting in the movie,
Right.
which is one reason. And the music's fantastic. I mean, they're doing covers, but still, it's definitely a believable fake band.
Absolutely.
And they did actually tour.
That's right. They did afterwards. Yeah.
And they got some of the greatest musicians ever in there: Bones Malone and Donald Duck Dunn with the pipe, and Matt Guitar Murphy, and
Cropper.
and Steve Cropper, of course, right in there, who played with many musicians over the years and many hits that Like, check out Steve Cropper's discography. I'm like, whoa, he played guitar on that. He played guitar.
I think I saw him. I saw Ringo, I don't know, 10 months ago in Atlantic City, and I think Steve Cropper was in that band, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's tremendous. Tremendous. So that's my pick.
Yeah, I like it.
Had a lot of comments on Facebook earlier in the week when I put up the question. That there were just some bands I just never heard of.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because we're old.
And everything we did was geared toward our generation, but really cool stuff.
The greatest thing here, because I should have looked this up earlier for everybody. I'm just gonna talk amongst yourselves. Somebody put Crucial Taunt. Dave Price said Crucial Taunt. Not familiar with that band. Somebody Night Drive. Maybe that's a band, possibly. Captain Geach and the Shrimp Shack Shooters.
I like the name. I'll tell you.
I love the name. I don't know where it's from, honestly. Jet Screamer, Steel Dragon, Dewey Cox. That's one I'm familiar with. Eddie and the Cruisers.
Yeah, the Beaver Brown Band.
Yeah,
right?
They covered that. A band called Disaster Area. I'm not sure where that comes from either. See, Danger Kitty, the Queen Haters. These are all the ones I don't know. And then many of the selections were the ones we had tonight. Here, Elliot did comment on the feed here.
Yeah,
and he basically said what you had mentioned. So with that, we're at 42 minutes live. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
I did. That's all that matters.
Yeah. This will be available as a podcast audio, of course. Hopefully we won't get sniffed out and shut down.
No.
But if we did, you saw it live here.
You did.
And it may not be able to be played anywhere else.
No, and if you could do us a favor too, if you like our show, even if you hate our show, like us on Facebook. If you find this on YouTube, if you could subscribe, it costs you nothing, but it'll allow us to keep bringing the show to you over and over and over again. We're having a lot of fun with it, and we're trying to really give you as much enjoyable content.
Yeah, again, we get thousands of views and thousands of listens on the podcast. We're on Amazon Music, Audible, Audacity, iTunes, just about anywhere you listen to podcasts. We are there. The numbers are great, but we need you to subscribe.
Yeah, it'll help. Yeah, we'll get analytics that put us 60, 70,000 a month, which is really nice compared.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Yeah, compared to the 2 or 3 people, we'd get some crickets and people. So we do appreciate it, but if you could do that, that would be great. And we have more great shows that we're in the process of lining up. We're probably about 8 or 9 guests deep in terms of Scott manipulating the schedule that got screwed up because of my COVID.
We got we're going to really stuff September full of shows.
We will
probably release them about every other week.
Yeah.
For you guys. But we have over, 40, 50 shows. It goes way back. And we're still live streaming our past shows every Thursday night at 7:00 Eastern. You could check that out. And we really appreciate it. Get yourself a Guitar Tales hat or a shirt by clicking on the merch button there. And all these links are on Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff. So with that, who do you want to take us out tonight? Do you want to do Big Daddy or you want to do a little Phil X?
I'm in the mood for Big Daddy tonight.
All right, let's hit it. Big Daddy, take us out, brother.
I'm number 2. I'm number 2. No, I was the second. That's right. I was the second one. The second on Guitar Tales, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching it right now. I'm Big Daddy Ed with the Amish Outlaws. I gotta go back to work. Here we go. Guitar Tales, watch it!